This is our aim here for this lined vent. We have back of our skirt with a vent with an underlap here. And the lining here is very neatly sewn around the vent. So here's how you do it. Today I'm going to sew a lined skirt vent sample. So I have my outer fabric here with the vent pattern made in. And then I have my lining patterns. Just be aware that the left and the right lining are a little bit different, but we'll see how that works in just a second. My pieces have got a 1/2 inch seam allowance on them. So the first thing I'm going to do is sew in this center back seam. Now, if you're doing an invisible zipper, you will have put in the invisible zipper at the top first and then sew the seam. If you're doing a lapped zipper, obviously that won't be the case. If you're inexperienced, sometimes it can be helpful to mark in the point that you want to stop sewing. So I'm just going to mark that in. Whoops. So it's going to be, my stitching line is going to be here. And here's the other seam allowance. Oops. Here. Okay. So that would just, continue along this way. So you can see here, this is the intersection point of these two seam allowances, and that is where I'm going to stop sewing. So I have my pieces right sides together. I'm going to sew.
Thread will be running out.
Sorry, that's my sewing machine talking to me. And I'm going to stop right on that apex. Okay, here we go. So now we can kind of open this up and see what's going on. So here we have it. This is the center back seam here. And one piece will stay open like this, and then the other piece will fold back. Let's look at that from the inside. That's also the case here, right? And what's going to happen is this piece is going to go here, okay? And then this piece is going to kind of interleave and attach into this piece here. So this is kind of got a self-facing, and it's going to be all neat, we hope. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew my vent lining, my lining pieces together, right sides together, okay? And we're just going to match everything up, and I'm going to finish right here. So in that 1/2 inch, that 1/2 inch seam allowance intersection again. So you can just mark that on again if you want. Makes life easy. Just mark in what a 1/2 inch seam allowance looks like here and here. And I can just use this as a bit of a ruler. Straight edge, I suppose, to mark in the intersection points. So you can see here, that's where that intersection point is. Now, it looks a bit strange, doesn't it? With this corner being below there, but that is totally by design, and that is because this is going to essentially fold up eventually, and this will fold down eventually. Okay, so let's sew this one. Okay, so here we are. I have my outside fabric pressed. You can see that the vent is even taking shape, so I can understand what's going on here. And then here's that vent lining. So let's look at how they go together. here's my body main fabric, okay? And then this is going to sit on top of here like this. I just moved things over so you can get a better look here. Now, we need to do some really important clipping. So I'm going to clip from this corner right into where this stitching ends here, just on this top layer here. So just bear with me, it's a bit hard doing on camera. Okay, so you can see there, like this. Okay, here's my lining. Okay, I'm going to do it the same thing. Okay, so just this top layer, it's the piece that looks kind of the same shape. I'm going to go from this corner. Let me just get this threads out of the way so you can see. There we go. Just the one layer. Right to that corner there. Okay. There we go. So let's look at how this is going to lay. It's going to lay really flat like this, but what we need to do is we need to sew these edges together. Essentially, they're going to fold like this and fold under like this with a seam allowance. So I'm going to just flip this over. I find when I'm sewing, if I can't work something out, I kind of, if you fold it back and understand what's going on, it makes it a lot easier. Okay, so I've got these right sides together. And I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay. Here we are, sewn together here. Oops, I ran out of bobbin thread. Okay, so here's where we're at. I just pressed this over. Now, at this point, it's good to kind of lay everything out and get everything really smooth, because you want to make sure that you're sewing this without any puckers, okay? So if you've clipped deeply enough in here, it should lay pretty flat, okay? And these ends are even here. So move this out of the way. We need to sew this edge to here. So I can flip it under like that. Okay, move this back. And that's how I'm going to sew it. Okay, so let's look at that again. It's going to sit like this eventually. Okay, with these edges even. So if I kind of hold this, this is going to inform how I sew this part here. So if you want, you can pop a little pin in it just to make sure it's in the right spot. And then you're going to start sewing right where you clipped in here. Okay. Pretty good. Okay, so things are looking good here, right? This is going to now fold up and under like this. Okay, and this also needs to tuck up in here. So then I can fold this piece back and match all of these pieces together. Now, what I would say is I would prioritize things sitting flat over things matching up in here. So what you might like to do, so you can see mine doesn't quite want to match here. Now that's probably because I didn't clip it quite deeply enough, or maybe I was a little inaccurate on my seams. So I can grab all 4 of these layers and pop a pin in it. these long pins are useful for this. And if I sew it like that, let's see what happens. That's going to be pretty good. Pretty neat. Okay. So I know that that's going to serve me well. Okay. So I'm going to flip this down and kind of lift it up and give it a bit of a shake to get everything out of the way, and can sew from here until here. There we go. All done. From the right side here. Now at this point, what you normally do is you normally sew a reinforcing line of stitching along here in a diagonal, just so that to hold it open. But we don't actually need to do that because we've already got that sewing there to hold the vent in place. So you can do that or not, depending on what you like. So, hope that helped.